The rain was relentless, hammering the cracked asphalt outside the diner like it had a personal grudge. I hunched under my hoodie, the damp fabric clinging to my shoulders, and pushed through the door. The bell above jingled, a sound too cheerful for the storm in my chest. Inside, the air smelled of burnt coffee and greasy bacon, the kind of place where dreams went to sulk. I was here for one reason: to drop off my sister's letter. Just another errand for Ellie, who couldn't be bothered to face her own messes. But the second I saw him, Asher, leaning against the counter, his green eyes catching the fluorescent light like sea glass, I knew this wasn't just another errand. It was a collision. I clutched the envelope, the edges soft from the rain, and hesitated. Ellie's handwriting looped across the front in her signature purple ink. To Asher, from your secret admirer. God, she was dramatic. She'd been leaving these notes for weeks, slipping them into his locker at school, under his windshield wiper, anywhere she knew he'd find them. She swore it was romantic, her grand plan to win over the guy who barely knew she existed. I thought it was unhinged, but I was her brother, not her therapist. My job was to deliver, not judge. Asher was wiping down the counter, his movements slow, deliberate, like he was stalling. His dark hair fell into his eyes, and he brushed it back with a sigh that carried across the empty diner. I don't know why it hit me. The way his shoulders slumped, the faint smudge of exhaustion under his eyes, but it did, like a punch I didn't see coming. I'd known him since we were kids, back when we'd race bikes down Willow Street, but he was different now. Older, sharper, carrying something heavy I couldn't name. I cleared my throat, stepping forward. Hey, Ash. He looked up, and for a split second his face softened. Jude? Shit, man, you're soaked. His voice was warm, rough around the edges, like he'd been up all night. He tossed a rag over his shoulder and leaned forward, elbows on the counter. What's got you out in this mess? I held up the envelope, my fingers leaving wet streaks on the paper. Just dropping this off. For you. My voice sounded wrong, too tight, like I was choking on the lie. I wasn't supposed to say it was from Ellie. She'd made that clear. Keep it mysterious, Jude. Don't ruin the vibe. Asher's eyes locked on the envelope, and something shifted in his expression. Curiosity, maybe, or hope. He reached for it, his fingers brushing mine, and I swear the air crackled. Another one, huh? He said, his voice low, almost reverent. He turned the envelope over, studying the purple ink like it was a code he could crack. This secret admirer thing, it's kind of messing with my head. I forced a laugh, shoving my hands into my pockets. Yeah, well, sounds like they're obsessed or something. My heart was hammering, and I didn't know why. It wasn't my letter. It wasn't my confession. But the way he looked at me, like he was searching for something, made my stomach twist. You know anything about this, Jude? He asked, his tone teasing but his eyes serious. He leaned closer, and I caught the faint scent of his cologne. Cedar and something sharp, like winter air. You're always around when these show up. I froze. Me? Nah, I'm just the delivery guy. The words tasted like ash. I wanted to bolt, to get out of this diner and away from the way his gaze pinned me down, but my feet wouldn't move. He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. Sure, man, whatever you say. He tucked the letter into his back pocket, and I felt a pang I couldn't explain, like I'd just handed over something that wasn't mine to give. I mumbled some excuse about needing to get home and stumbled back into the rain, my sneakers splashing through puddles that reflected the neon open sign. The cold bit into my skin, but it wasn't the weather making me shiver. It was the look in Asher's eyes, the way he'd said you're always around, like he was piecing something together. Something I didn't even understand myself. By the time I got home, the house was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the faint drip of a leaky faucet. Ellie was sprawled on the couch, her phone glowing in the dark. Did you do it? She asked without looking up. Yeah, I said, peeling off my wet hoodie. It's done. She grinned, oblivious to the storm brewing in my chest. You're the best, Jude. He's gonna lose it when he reads this one. I went full poet this time. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because for the first time, I didn't want to be the messenger. I wanted to be the one writing the words. The next day at school, the halls buzzed with the usual chaos. Lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking, laughter sharp enough to cut. I was at my locker, trying to focus on my chem notes, when Asher appeared out of nowhere, leaning against the wall like he'd been waiting for me. His leather jacket creaked as he crossed his arms, and his eyes were brighter today, almost feverish. "Got another letter this morning," he said, holding up a new envelope, this one sealed with a tiny heart sticker. "Found it taped to my bike." My stomach dropped. Ellie hadn't mentioned another one. "That's fast," I said, my voice barely steady. "Yeah." He stepped closer, close enough that I could hear the soft rhythm of his breathing. "You wouldn't know who's leaving these, would you, Jude? 'Cause I'm starting to think it's someone who knows me. Really knows me." I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. "Why would I know? I just dropped off the one yesterday." He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle with missing pieces. "Right? Just the delivery guy." But the way he said it, slow and deliberate, made my skin prickle. He reached out, his hand grazing my arm, and I flinched. Not because I didn't want him to touch me, but because I did. Too much. "Jude," he said softer now. "If you know something, just tell me. I'm not gonna be mad." I wanted to tell him. God. I wanted to spill everything. Ellie's stupid plan, her purple ink, the way I'd been carrying her secrets like a weight I didn't sign up for. But I couldn't. Not when he was looking at me like that, like I was the answer to a question he hadn't asked yet. "I don't know anything." I lied, and the words burned. I turned away, slamming my locker shut, and walked off before he could say anything else. But I felt his eyes on my back, heavy as the rain from last night. That night I couldn't sleep. The ceiling fan clicked above me, a steady rhythm that matched the questions spinning in my head. Why did I care so much? Why did the thought of Asher reading Ellie's letters make my chest ache? I'd never thought about him like that before. Not consciously, anyway. But now, every moment we'd spent together as kids, racing bikes, sneaking into the old theater, sharing secrets under the stars, felt like clues I'd missed, like I'd been running from something I didn't even know I wanted. I rolled over, grabbing my phone, and scrolled through old photos. There was one from last summer, me and Asher at the lake, his arms slung around my shoulders, both of us laughing. His smile was wide, unguarded, the kind of smile that made you believe in second chances. I stared at it until my eyes burned, until I couldn't deny the truth anymore. I wasn't just delivering Ellie's letters. I was falling for him. And that's when the doorbell rang. It was past midnight, the house dark except for the glow of my phone. I crept downstairs, my heart pounding, and opened the door to find Asher standing there, soaked from the rain, his jacket glistening under the porch light. He was holding the latest letter, the one with the heart sticker, and his eyes were wild, like he'd been running. "Jude," he said, his voice breaking, "we need to talk." The air between us was thick, charged with the kind of tension that makes your skin hum. Asher stood on my porch, rain dripping from his hair, the letter clutched in his hand like a lifeline. His breath was uneven, puffing out in clouds against the cold night air. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, just stared at him as the storm roared behind him, a low growl of thunder rolling through the sky. "You gonna let me in, or am I standing out here all night?" he asked, his voice rough but not angry. There was something else in it, something raw, like he was holding on to hope by a thread. I stepped aside, my bare feet cold against the hardwood floor. He brushed past me, bringing the scent of rain and cedar into the house. The door clicked shut, and the silence was deafening, broken only by the faint drip of water from his jacket onto the floor. I gestured toward the living room, where the couch was still littered with Ellie's magazines and an empty popcorn bowl. He didn't sit. He just stood there, holding the letter, his eyes searching mine like he was trying to read my soul. "Jude," he started, then stopped, running a hand through his wet hair. This letter, it's different. It's not just flirty bullshit anymore. It's personal. Like, really personal. He held it up, the heart sticker catching the dim light. Whoever wrote this knows things about me I've never told anyone. Not even you. My stomach twisted. Ellie didn't know him like that. She couldn't. Her letters were all flowery metaphors and stolen lines from rom-coms. I'd read them, hell, I'd delivered them. They were sweet but surface level. Nothing deep enough to make Asher look like he'd just been cracked open. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I leaned against the wall, trying to look casual, but my hands were shaking. He stepped closer, his boots leaving wet footprints on the floor. It talks about the night my dad left. How I sat in my room, blasting music so loud I thought the walls would shake apart. How I kept his old watch on my nightstand, even though it's broken. His voice cracked, and he looked away, his jaw tight. I never told anyone that, Jude. Not a soul. My mind raced. Ellie couldn't know that. She wasn't there that night. For years ago, when Asher showed up at my window, his eyes red, his voice hoarse. I was the one who sat with him on the roof, passing a warm soda back and forth, listening to him talk until the stars blurred. I was the one who saw the watch on his wrist, the cracked face glinting in the moonlight. Not Ellie. Me. I don't get it, I said, stalling, my heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. Maybe someone overheard you or something. He shook his head, stepping even closer. I could feel the heat radiating off him, despite the cold clinging to his clothes. No, this is too specific. And you... He stopped, his eyes narrowing. You're always there, Jude. Every time a letter shows up, you're there. The diner, the bike, the school. It's you, isn't it? The world tilted. My breath caught, a sharp hitch that echoed in the quiet room. Asher, I'm not. I started, but he cut me off. Don't lie to me. His voice was low, urgent, almost pleading. He held up the letter, his fingers trembling. This is you. It has to be. No one else knows me like this. I wanted to scream that it wasn't me, that it was Ellie's stupid game, but the words wouldn't come, because part of me, a part I'd buried deep, wanted it to be true, wanted him to be right, wanted him to look at me the way he was looking at me now, like I was the only thing that mattered. I'm not your secret admirer, I said finally, the words heavy, like dropping stones into a still pond. I'm just the guy delivering the letters. His face fell, just for a second, but it was enough to gut me. Then he straightened, his expression hardening. Fine, if that's how you want to play it. He turned toward the door, the letter still in his hand, but he paused, glancing back. But I'm not an idiot, Jude. I know what I feel. He left, the door slamming behind him, and I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. The room smelled faintly of his cologne, mixing with the stale popcorn, and it made my chest ache. What the hell was happening? Ellie's letters were hers, but that one it wasn't. Someone else was out there writing things only I knew, and Asher thought it was me. The next morning, I cornered Ellie in the kitchen, where she was pouring cereal into a bowl, humming off-key. Did you write a letter about Asher's dad? I asked, my voice sharp. She froze, milk splashing onto the counter. His dad? No, why would I? I don't even know his dad. She frowned, wiping her hands on a dish towel. What's going on, Jude? I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because if it wasn't Ellie, then who was it? I spent the day distracted, my mind replaying Asher's words, the way his voice broke when he talked about his dad. By lunch, I was a mess, barely touching my food, when a new face appeared at our table. Miles, a transfer student who'd only been at school a few weeks. He was quiet, artsy, always sketching in a notebook, his glasses slipping down his nose. He slid into the seat across from me, his smile shy but warm. Heard you're the guy to talk to about deliveries, he said, his voice soft but deliberate. He pushed a folded piece of paper toward me, the edges worn, like it had been carried in his pocket for days. Can you get this to Asher? I stared at the paper, my pulse racing. No purple ink, no heart sticker, just plain, unassuming, like it was trying to hide. You're the secret admirer?" I asked, my voice barely audible over the cafeteria noise. Miles blushed, pushing his glasses up. "Not exactly. Just someone who notices things, like how he lights up when you're around." He leaned forward, his eyes bright with something I couldn't place. "You're not just the delivery guy, Jude. You never were." I felt like I'd been slapped. Miles knew. Somehow he knew. And he was writing letters that dug into Asher's heart, letters that made Asher think it was me. I opened my mouth to argue, but the bell rang, and Miles was gone, leaving the paper on the table. I picked it up, my hands shaking, and tucked it into my pocket. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but one thing was clear. This wasn't Ellie's game anymore. It was mine. The paper from Miles burned a hole in my pocket all day, its weight heavier than any of Ellie's letters. I didn't open it. Couldn't. Not yet. The school halls felt too small, the air too thick, like I was suffocating under the truth I wasn't ready to face. By the time the final bell rang, I was a live wire, every nerve sparking. I needed answers, and I needed them from Miles. I found him outside, sitting under the oak tree by the parking lot, his sketchbook open, pencil scratching across the page. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows, glinting off his glasses as he looked up, unsurprised to see me. "Figured you'd come," he said, closing the book. His voice was calm, but there was a spark in his eyes, like he'd been waiting for this. "What the hell are you doing, Miles?" I demanded, my voice louder than I meant. A couple of kids glanced over, but I didn't care. "Why are you writing letters to Asher? And why make them sound like they're from me?" He stood, brushing grass off his jeans, and met my gaze without flinching. "Because I see the way you look at him, Jude. The way he looks at you. You're both too stubborn to admit it, so I gave you a push." He shrugged, like it was that simple, but his hands were fidgeting, betraying his nerves. "I'm not trying to mess with you. I'm trying to help." "Help?" I laughed, but it came out bitter, sharp. "You're screwing with his head. With mine. You don't even know him." "I know enough." Miles stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I've been watching you too. The way he lights up when you walk into a room, the way you freeze when he gets too close. It's not just a crush, Jude. It's real. And you're letting your sister's stupid game get in the way." I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but the words stuck in my throat. Because he wasn't wrong. Not entirely. I'd felt it. The pull toward Asher, the way my heart raced when he smiled, the ache when he walked away. But I wasn't ready for it. Not like this. I pulled the letter from my pocket, holding it up. "What's in this one? More stuff I told you in confidence? More secrets you're using to play puppet master?" Miles's face softened, and for the first time, I saw guilt flicker in his eyes. "It's not like that. I wrote what I saw, what I felt. I've been where you are, Jude. Scared to say it out loud. I thought if I could make him see you, really see you, you'd both stop running." I stared at him, my anger faltering. Miles wasn't just some meddling kid. He was carrying his own weight, his own story, and I could hear it in the way his voice trembled. But that didn't make this okay. "You don't get to decide that for me," I said, my voice low. "Or for him." He nodded, looking down at his shoes. "I know. I'm sorry. I wanted to help." He hesitated, then reached into his bag and pulled out another letter, this one unsealed. "This is the last one. Do whatever you want with it. Give it to him, burn it, whatever. I'm done." I took it, my fingers brushing against his, and for a moment, I saw the kid who'd been sketching alone, unnoticed, carrying a heart bigger than he let on. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded and walked away, the two letters heavy in my hands. That night, I sat on my bed, the letters spread out in front of me. One was Miles's, the one he'd given me at lunch, still folded, still a mystery. The other was the new one, unsealed, the words inside waiting like a loaded gun. I opened the first one, my hands shaking, and read. It was about Asher's laugh, how it sounded like summer, how it made the world feel lighter. It described the way he tilted his head when he was thinking, the way his fingers tapped out rhythms when he was nervous. Things I'd noticed but never said out loud. Things I'd buried because they scared me. The second letter was different. It wasn't about Asher. It was about me. You're braver than you think, Jude. You carry everyone else's secrets, but you're too scared to carry your own. Tell him, before it's too late. I dropped the letter, my breath hitching. Miles had seen right through me, and it hurt like hell. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I found Asher at the diner, same as always. But this time I wasn't delivering anyone else's words. I walked in, the bell jingling, and he looked up, his eyes tired but hopeful. The air smelled of fresh coffee and syrup, and the jukebox was playing some old Springsteen song, low and mournful. "Jude," he said, straightening. "You okay?" "No," I admitted, my voice raw. "I'm not." I pulled out the letters, Miles's and Ellie's, all of them, and dropped them on the counter. Some of them are from Ellie. She's the one who started this. But the others, I swallowed, my throat tight. They're not from me. But they could have been. His eyes widened, searching mine. "What are you saying?" I took a deep breath, the words trembling on my lips. "I'm saying I've been running from this. From you. And I'm done." I stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of him, to hear the soft catch in his breath. "I don't know how to do this, Ash, but I know I feel something. And I think you do too." For a moment he didn't move, didn't speak. Then he reached out, his hand finding mine, his fingers warm and steady. "Jude," he whispered, and the way he said my name was like a promise. "I've been waiting for you to say that." The diner fell away, the hum of the jukebox fading into a distant hum. It was just me and Asher, his hand in mine. His green eyes locked on me like I was the only thing keeping him anchored. My heart was a drumbeat, loud and unsteady, and the air between us felt alive, electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. I could smell the faint trace of his cologne, mixed with the diner's syrupy sweetness, and it grounded me, kept me from bolting. "You mean it?" he asked, his voice low, almost afraid. "This isn't another letter, right? This is you." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak at first. "It's me," I managed, the words rough, like they'd been scraped out of me. "No more letters. No more secrets." He exhaled, a shaky breath that sounded like relief, and his thumb brushed over my knuckles, a small gesture that sent warmth flooding through me. But then his face shifted, a flicker of doubt crossing his eyes. "What about Ellie? The letters were hers, right?" I winced, the truth sharp as a blade. "Some of them. She started it. But the ones that got to you, the ones that really saw you, those weren't hers. They were from someone else. Someone who knew me better than I knew myself." He frowned, pulling back slightly, his hand still in mine but looser now. "Someone else? Who?" I hesitated, Miles's face flashing in my mind. His shy smile, his sketchbook, the way he'd pushed me toward this moment without asking for anything in return. "A friend," I said finally. "Someone who saw what I was too scared to admit." Asher's jaw tightened, and for a second, I thought he'd let go, walk away, leave me standing there with my heart in my hands. But then he stepped closer, his free hand cupping my face, his thumb brushing the corner of my mouth. "I don't care who wrote them," he said, his voice fierce. "I care about this. About you." And then he kissed me. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was hungry, desperate, like he'd been holding back for years and the dam had finally broken. His lips were warm, tasting faintly of coffee and mint, and I kissed him back, my hands finding his shoulders, pulling him closer. The world spun, the diner's fluorescent lights blurring into streaks of gold, the jukebox's melody wrapping around us like a heartbeat. I could feel his pulse under my fingers, fast and unsteady, matching mine. When we pulled apart, both of us breathless, he rested his forehead against mine, his eyes half closed. "I've wanted to do that for so long," he whispered, and the words sent a shiver down my spine. Me too, I admitted, my voice barely audible. I just didn't know it. We stood there, wrapped in each other, until the bell above the door jingled, snapping us back to reality. A customer walked in, an older guy with a trucker hat, and Asher stepped back, his hand lingering on mine for a second before letting go. I'm on shift, he said, a sheepish grin tugging at his lips. But we're not done here, Jude. I smiled, my chest lighter than it had been in weeks. Yeah, we're not. The next few days were a blur, a heady mix of stolen glances and late-night texts. Asher and I didn't talk about the letters again, but they hung between us, a silent reminder of the chaos that had brought us here. I told Ellie the truth, bracing for her to lose it, but she just laughed, tossing her hair. Guess I'm not cut out for the secret admirer thing, she said, but her eyes were soft, like she was proud of me for stepping up. Miles was harder. I found him at the oak tree again, his sketchbook open to a drawing of the diner, all sharp lines and soft shadows. I sat beside him, the grass cool against my palms. You were right, I said, my voice steady. About me, about Asher. But you shouldn't have done it. He looked up, his glasses reflecting the sunlight. I know. I saw you struggling, and I thought I could help. I've been in love with someone who didn't see me. It sucks. I nodded, understanding more than I wanted to. You're a good guy, Miles. But next time, let me figure it out myself. Okay? He smiled, small but genuine. Deal. The real twist came a week later, at the school's talent show. Asher had signed up to play guitar, something he hadn't done publicly since his dad left. I was in the audience, my heart in my throat. When he walked on stage, his guitar slung across his chest. The spotlight hit him, turning his hair to fire, and he looked out at the crowd, his eyes finding mine. This is for someone who changed everything, he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. He started playing, a slow, haunting melody that filled the auditorium, each note heavy with feeling. And then he sang words about secrets, about courage, about finding home in someone else's heart. It wasn't just a song. It was us. When he finished, the crowd erupted, but I barely heard them. I was already moving, pushing through the aisles, climbing onto the stage. He set his guitar down, his eyes wide, and I kissed him, right there in front of everyone. The cheers grew louder, but all I could hear was his heartbeat. All I could feel was his arms around me. We stood there under the spotlight, and I knew this was it, the moment we stopped running. The letters, the secrets, the fear. They'd led us here to a truth bigger than either of us. Love wasn't just a letter or a glance or a stolen kiss. It was messy, terrifying, and worth every second. As we walked off stage, hand in hand, I looked at him, his smile brighter than the lights above us. You're my home, Jude, he said, and I felt it. The weight of those words, the promise of them. And I knew, no matter what came next, we'd face it together. Because sometimes, the greatest love stories start with a mistake, a misunderstanding, a letter that wasn't meant to be. But they end with the truth. And the truth was I was his and he was mine.